Have you ever seen a Halloween costume so outrageous that it made the entire internet stop scrolling? That moment when a single outfit, a single idea, suddenly becomes the focal point of global discussion, debate, ridicule, and viral obsession? Well, this year, that moment arrived, and it's centered on one name: Meghan Markle. Yes, the same Meghan Markle who has been at the center of every royal drama, celebrity feud, and media frenzy for nearly a decade. But this isn't just about Meghan as a person. This is about the image she has carefully curated, the perception the world has consumed, and a Halloween costume that somehow, in its absurdity, captured all of it in a single shocking, meme-worthy moment. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Imagine this: a store window in Beverly Hills, a Halloween pop-up display, or maybe an online costume ad. The details vary depending on who you believe. But the concept is the same: a life-size costume modeled on Meghan Markle, complete with every exaggerated trait her public persona has been tagged with over the years. The front of the box boasts in bold, unflinching letters: Meghan Markle comes with idiotic husband, victim mentality, bronzer, constant lies, choice of noses, Oda copycat spray, shit podcast, and kids sold separately. The absurdity of it hits you immediately, and yet, somewhere deep down, you can't help but chuckle or gasp. Or maybe, if you are one of those who have followed every royal scandal like a Netflix series you can't turn off, you feel a strange mix of horror and recognition. Why did this become such a viral sensation? Why did millions of people immediately jump online to tweet, post, share, dissect, and even buy the idea? And what does it say about our culture, our fascination with celebrity, and the curious phenomenon of turning a person into a satirical product for Halloween? The answers lie somewhere between humor, outrage, and something darker, a reflection of the public obsession with Meghan Markle that seems almost impossible to escape. Let's start with the most obvious element: the costume itself. This isn't your standard pop culture parody. This is an entire conceptual experience. The bronzer component is a nod to Meghan's famously radiant glow, which has often been critiqued and copied, sometimes unfairly, in beauty magazines and tabloids. The choice of noses plays on the endless debate and fascination surrounding her facial features, a microcosm of the scrutiny royal women, and particularly Meghan, face in every public appearance. The Eau de Copycat spray is the piece de resistance, a fictional perfume that, in the minds of critics, perfectly captures the essence of public perception: imitation, celebrity obsession, and the desire to replicate her image in ways that feel both reverent and mocking. And then there's the book. The costume comes with an imaginary book, front-page headlines screaming: Meghan Markle comes with idiotic husband, victim mentality, bronzer, constant lies, choice of noses, Oda copycat spray, shit podcast, and kids sold separately. Each line is an exaggerated reflection of the labels she has acquired over the years, from media coverage of her relationship with Prince Harry to critiques of her media ventures, from her fashion choices to her alleged manipulation of narratives. It's a brutal, satirical distillation of her public life, packaged in a way that's meant to provoke laughter, shock, and debate. The internet's reaction? Utter chaos. Within hours, thousands of memes were circulating. TikTok creators were making sketches about unboxing Meghan Markle, and Instagram influencers were debating which label hit hardest. But let's pause for a moment. What does it mean that one Halloween costume could inspire such fervor? This isn't just a joke. This is a cultural phenomenon. This is a reflection of how the internet consumes celebrity, amplifies outrage, and transforms even the smallest concept into a viral spectacle. It's a lens through which we can view society's obsession with fame, image, and scandal. And, importantly, it's a mirror for Meghan Markle's own story, a story that has been followed, dissected, and debated in ways most people could never imagine living through. Think about the psychology behind it. People love to see icons reduced to absurdity. It's part fascination, part schadenfreude, and part ritualized social commentary. By turning Meghan into a Halloween costume, people aren't just laughing at a person. They're participating in a collective conversation about her, about celebrity culture, about the obsession with curated personas. They are, in essence, externalizing their feelings about fame, power, and perception. And Meghan, whether intentionally or not, has always been a lightning rod for these reactions, polarizing, scrutinized, and endlessly dissected. Now, imagine the conversations happening in living rooms across the globe. Friends gather for Halloween parties. Someone opens the box. The labels spark laughter, outrage, debate. People compare it to past costumes, political figures, fictional villains, iconic movie characters. And yet, something about this one strikes differently. Perhaps it's the sheer audacity of the satire. Perhaps it's the intimacy of her image. Meghan Markle is, for better or worse, someone who has been invited into the public consciousness in ways few other figures have. Her every move is analyzed, her choices dissected, her persona commodified. And here, in this Halloween costume, the internet sees a concentrated, exaggerated reflection of all that. But the story doesn't stop at the costume. This is where things get truly fascinating. The costume sparked debates not just about Meghan herself, but about broader social questions. Can someone truly control their narrative in the age of social media? How much of public perception is earned, and how much is manufactured by others? What does it mean when satire turns into obsession? And most importantly, what happens when a joke becomes an event that dominates headlines, trends on every platform, and generates countless reactions, some adoring, some horrified, some downright vicious? Social media analysts have noted that the costume's viral spread was extraordinary. Tweets went up at lightning speed. Reels were shared in seconds. Within hours, hashtags trended worldwide. Some people celebrated it as harmless fun, a clever critique, a biting satire of celebrity culture. Others condemned it as cruel, mean-spirited, and a reflection of society's obsession with tearing down successful women. And through it all, Meghan herself was nowhere to be seen, at least publicly, leaving the internet to fill in the blanks with their assumptions, commentary, and memes. One of the more remarkable elements of this story is how it blends reality and fiction. On the one hand, we are talking about a literal costume that can be bought, mocked, or unboxed. On the other hand, the labels themselves, victim mentality, constant lies, shit podcast, are a distilled fiction of her public persona, exaggerated for satirical effect. It's a fascinating intersection where fact and perception collide, where reality and parody merge, and where the internet thrives on ambiguity, speculation, and dramatic narrative. And yet, amid the laughter and outrage, there is something deeply human about this phenomenon. It speaks to our need to categorize, label, and make sense of people who occupy enormous cultural space. Meghan Markle, willingly or unwillingly, has become one of those figures, someone whose every move is magnified, judged, and dissected. And in this Halloween costume, the internet found the perfect vehicle to express that collective fascination in a way that is both ridiculous and revealing. So, why does this story matter now? Because it's a reflection of something larger than Meghan Markle herself. It's about the age of virality, where a single concept, a costume, a meme, a viral post, can dominate global conversation, spark emotional debate, and reveal deep-seated cultural tensions. It's about the public's relationship with fame, perception, and scandal. And it's about the ways in which satire, humor, and outrage intersect to create something that is, in equal measure, entertaining and unsettling. By now, you're probably asking yourself, what else could possibly happen in this saga? How does one Halloween costume turn into a cultural lightning rod that dominates headlines, fuels social media, and sparks endless commentary? Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore. From the initial viral reactions to the intricate details of the fictional book, from the internet memes to celebrity commentary, this story is about more than a costume. It's about obsession, perception, and the cultural power of Meghan Markle. And what comes next will be even more shocking. You haven't seen the full scale of the internet meltdown yet. There are labels, memes, reactions, and cultural critiques that make the initial viral spark look like a small flame compared to the wildfire that follows. And trust me, once we start peeling back the layers of this story, you'll see why the world couldn't stop talking, posting, and debating, and why this Halloween costume may go down as one of the most talked about cultural moments of the decade. The moment the first picture surfaced online, it was like dropping a match into a barrel of gasoline. Twitter exploded, Instagram reels multiplied like rabbits, and TikTok users couldn't stop reenacting the unboxing of the Meghan Markle Halloween costume. The headline alone was enough to make people pause mid-scroll. Meghan Markle comes with idiotic husband, victim mentality, bronzer, constant lies, choice of noses, Oda copycat spray, shit podcast, kids sold separately. Even reading it aloud felt like a shock to the system. And yet, millions clicked, shared, and commented. Why? Because this wasn't just a costume. It was a distilled, hyperbolic version of everything the world thought they knew about Meghan Markle. A tangible, visual representation of her public persona. It started quietly, in the depths of a costume retailer's online store. Some say it was a marketing stunt. Others insist it was a leaked design that quickly went viral. Either way, the concept was genius in its audacity. Every label, every prop, every imagined accessory spoke to the cultural obsession with Meghan. Bronzer? Check. A choice of noses? Check. Oda copycat spray? You can't make this up. And then there was the piece de resistance. The idiotic husband, carefully included as a detachable accessory. People didn't just laugh. They gasped. They debated. They shared. And within hours, the costume had taken on a life of its own. Imagine scrolling through your feed and seeing influencers opening a box labeled Meghan Markle. The reactions ranged from hysterical laughter to outright shock. One TikTok video showed a woman dramatically peeling away the layers of packaging, revealing a miniature Harry with a bewildered expression. "He's included," she whispered to the camera, "but he's entirely optional." The video exploded with views, comments ranging from, "I can't believe they did this," to "Where do I buy it?" And that was just the beginning. What makes this moment so captivating isn't the humor alone. It's the way the internet thrives on amplified outrage. There is something almost magnetic about watching a public figure's persona condensed into a single, easily digestible object. A box that screams everything we think, believe, or joke about them. And Meghan Markle, whether intentionally or not, has spent her public life providing the perfect fodder for this kind of cultural packaging. Every interview, every fashion choice, every public statement has been analyzed, dissected, and memified. And now, it had a costume to match. The initial shockwave of reactions revealed something fascinating about modern celebrity culture. For one, it highlighted the speed at which memes and viral moments spread. Within minutes, Twitter feeds were flooded with images, GIFs, and parody reviews of the costume. Influencers staged mock unboxings, celebrities weighed in with jokes, and late-night hosts teased segments referencing the absurdity. And everywhere, people argued about the truth behind the labels. Was Harry really an idiotic husband, as the packaging claimed? Did Meghan actually embody victim mentality? Could a perfume named Oda Copycat Spray really capture her essence? The questions were endless, and the discussion was relentless. And then there were the critics, the people who didn't find humor in it. Some argued that the costume was cruel, mean-spirited, and emblematic of a society that delights in tearing women down. They pointed out that reducing someone to a series of labels, even satirical ones, is a reflection of the way fame and public perception can warp reality. They debated whether Meghan herself should respond, or if ignoring the spectacle was the smartest move. Meanwhile, another segment of the internet reveled in the absurdity, posting memes comparing the costume to Halloween parodies of politicians, villains, and pop culture icons. It didn't take long for the costume to reach beyond social media. News outlets covered the viral sensation with a mix of amusement and incredulity. Headlines ranged from playful, "The Meghan Markle costume everyone's talking about," to scathing, "When satire becomes obsession, the Meghan Markle Halloween phenomenon." Talk shows featured panel discussions debating the cultural implications, and opinion writers mused on why the public is so fascinated with her. And yet, the costume's popularity wasn't just about Meghan herself. It was about how the internet transforms absurdity into a spectacle, elevating jokes into cultural events. One of the most remarkable aspects of the costume was how it managed to distill complex, controversial perceptions into something instantly understandable. The idiotic husband label tapped into ongoing discussions about Prince Harry's public image. The victim mentality tag played on narratives often discussed in tabloids and social commentary. Bronzer, noses, copycat spray, shit podcast, kids sold separately. Each element served as a shorthand for the collective fascination, criticism, and even mockery of Meghan's life in the public eye. And here, in this costume, everything was laid bare in a single, irreverent snapshot. Fans of Meghan Markle weren't silent either. Some defended her fiercely, arguing that the costume was mean-spirited and misogynistic. They pointed to the relentless scrutiny she has faced from the media and the public, suggesting that reducing her to a parody ignores the humanity behind the persona. Others, however, couldn't resist the humor. They shared photos of themselves posing with the costume, posted videos imagining the unboxing experience, and debated which label hit hardest. The conversation quickly became multi-layered, blending satire, outrage, and cultural critique into one sprawling viral event. And yet, for all the humor and critique, there was something deeper unfolding. This wasn't just about a Halloween costume. It was about perception, identity, and the power of narrative. Meghan Markle has spent years managing, shaping, and responding to her public image. Yet this costume showed that ultimately, perception is often out of one's control. The internet distilled her story, exaggerated it, and amplified it in ways she could neither predict nor prevent. It was a reminder that fame, especially in the digital age, is both a gift and a trap, one that can turn admiration into ridicule in the blink of an eye. The rapid spread of the costume also revealed the mechanics of viral culture. Every share, every comment, every parody video contributed to an escalating feedback loop. Memes were created faster than moderators could remove offensive content. Influencers staged elaborate photo shoots mimicking the labels. TikTok creators produced comedy sketches imagining a day in the life of the costume wearer. News outlets reported on news outlets reporting on news outlets. And in the center of it all was Meghan Markle, or at least her image, caught in a perfect storm of satire, fascination, and outrage. But perhaps the most astonishing part was the emotional intensity the costume evoked. People laughed, gasped, and debated. They argued about labels, dissected the humor, and questioned the intent behind the satire. It became a mirror, reflecting not just Meghan's life, but the audience itself, their obsessions, biases, and hunger for spectacle. And as the images spread, as commentary mounted, and as memes multiplied, one thing became clear. This was no longer just a Halloween costume. It was a cultural event. And just when you think the story couldn't get any more absurd, the costume sparked discussions far beyond the internet. Late-night hosts joked about it, magazine covers ran features, and comedians wove it into routines. Even celebrities felt compelled to weigh in, some in jest, some in critique. And everywhere, the same question hovered over the frenzy. What does it mean that one costume, one idea, could provoke such widespread conversation, laughter, outrage, and fascination? That question, as it turns out, isn't just rhetorical. Because this is where the story truly begins, at the intersection of satire, celebrity, and viral culture. The Meghan Markle costume was more than a joke. It was a statement, a mirror, and a trigger all at once. And as we'll see in the next chapters, the viral reaction was only the beginning. Behind the memes, the parody videos, and the news stories, there is a deeper narrative waiting to be explored, a story about perception, obsession, and the ways in which one figure can dominate cultural consciousness in ways both absurd and revealing. When you think about Meghan Markle, what comes to mind? Is it the Duchess herself, walking into a room with poise and elegance, the cameras snapping as she glides past? Or is it the curated image, the persona the media has built, the storylines that have followed her from Hollywood to Windsor? In many ways, Meghan Markle isn't just a person, she's a brand, a product, a carefully packaged, globally recognized symbol that evokes admiration, envy, fascination, and outrage all at once. And the Halloween costume that broke the internet this year? It didn't just mock her looks, or her husband, or her podcast. It was a direct reflection of the brand she has become, a distilled, exaggerated, satirical embodiment of everything the world associates with her. Brands aren't born overnight. They are meticulously crafted, tested, and reinforced by every appearance, statement, and collaboration. Meghan Markle's brand, however, is unique. It's simultaneously constructed by her and imposed by the world. In Hollywood, she was known as an actress, a humanitarian, a celebrity with influence. Transition to the British royal family, and suddenly the parameters shift. Every smile, every outfit, every gesture is scrutinized, dissected, and turned into headlines. In a culture obsessed with celebrity, the line between person and persona blurs. Meghan learned, consciously or unconsciously, that perception is power, and power, once wielded, invites both devotion and ridicule. The costumes labels. Idiotic husband, victim mentality, bronzer, constant lies, choice of noses, ode to copycat spray, shit podcast, kids sold separately, aren't just random jabs. They are shorthand for the narrative arcs the public has attached to her. Each one is a tiny lens through which her brand is magnified, critiqued, and often misinterpreted. Bronzer symbolizes the obsession with her appearance. Choice of noses and ode to copycat spray represent how fans and critics alike scrutinize her every aesthetic choice. Shit podcast and victim mentality reflect opinions on her media ventures and the narratives surrounding her challenges in the public eye. Idiotic husband? That's not just about Prince Harry. It's about the perception of her personal relationships, filtered through a lens of satire. Think about it. How many public figures get this level of scrutiny distilled into a single Halloween costume? The internet's response wasn't just a reflection of humor. It was an acknowledgement that Meghan Markle's brand has transcended ordinary celebrity. She's no longer just an individual. She's an idea, a symbol, a storyline. And the reactions, viral, mimetic, intense, are a testament to the potency of that brand. People laughed, they argued, they defended, and they mocked. Every click, every share, every comment added layers to the story, reinforcing the brand she has unwittingly become. But branding isn't just about perception. It's about narrative control. Meghan Markle has often been criticized for how she manages, or attempts to manage, her public image. Some argue that she meticulously crafts every statement, every appearance, to shape perception. Others suggest she reacts to media coverage, sometimes amplifying the narrative by embracing controversy. Whatever the case, the Halloween costume highlighted a key truth. No matter how controlled her image might be, the public ultimately dictates the brand's perception. Memes, satire, and viral commentary are the real directors of the story. Her brand is also about relatability, or at least the illusion of it. Meghan Markle's narrative often blends royal fairy tale allure with real-world accessibility. She's glamorous yet grounded, aristocratic yet socially conscious, famous yet approachable. This duality is central to why the costume resonated so strongly. It exaggerates the contradictions of her persona, turning them into tangible items. The bronzer for beauty obsession, the kids sold separately for family scrutiny, the copycat spray for imitation and influence. Each element tells a story. Each prop symbolizes a facet of the Meghan Markle brand. And the internet devours it, both admiring and mocking the spectacle. Consider the idiotic husband label for a moment. On the surface, it's hilarious, almost cruel. But beneath the humor lies commentary about how her relationships have been presented and interpreted. Prince Harry, once the carefree royal, is now inseparably linked to Meghan's narrative. Every interview, every public appearance, every decision is filtered through the lens of their relationship. And in this Halloween costume, he's literally included as a detachable prop, a visual metaphor for how public perception reduces real people into components of a brand story. It's satire, yes, but it's also an uncomfortably accurate reflection of the scrutiny surrounding the couple. And then there's the victim mentality label. Perhaps nothing illustrates the polarizing effect of Meghan's brand more than this. Supporters argue she has faced relentless media attacks, racism, sexism, and institutional pressure. Critics counter that she plays a perpetual victim, manipulating narratives to her advantage. The costume doesn't take sides. It simply presents the label as a statement, leaving interpretation up to the audience. And that ambiguity is central to her brand. It thrives on conversation, speculation, and debate. People can't help but form opinions, share them, and escalate the discourse. The shit podcast element is another masterstroke of satire. Meghan Markle's media ventures, particularly her podcast and streaming content, have been a mix of genuine attempts at storytelling and cultural critique. Yet, public perception, often influenced by memes and media commentary, sometimes reduces these efforts to ridicule. By including this label, the costume transforms critique into physical form, a tangible object that invites interaction, laughter, and discussion. It's not just a joke, it's a reflection of the real-world reaction to her career choices. The choice of noses and eau de copycat spray elements are subtler, but equally significant. They reflect the obsession with aesthetic details, imitation, and influence that define Meghan Markle's public persona. Every fashion choice, every beauty routine, every gesture is analyzed, copied, or criticized. The internet thrives on these details, amplifying them into cultural talking points. And the costume captures this dynamic perfectly, exaggerating it to the point of absurdity. By turning these traits into props, the costume forces the audience to confront their own fascination with and obsession over her appearance. But perhaps the most striking element is the way the costume unifies all these disparate aspects into a single, coherent brand narrative. Meghan Markle is many things: actress, royal, media figure, mother, influencer. She is adored, criticized, mimicked, and vilified. The costume doesn't shy away from any of it. It acknowledges the complexity, condenses it, and presents it in a form that is immediately recognizable, instantly shareable, and endlessly discussable. It's branding at its most distilled, its most viral, and its most entertaining. This is why the internet couldn't stop reacting. Every post, every meme, every share contributed to the amplification of her brand. People weren't just interacting with a costume. They were engaging with the idea of Meghan Markle, the persona, the story, the cultural phenomenon. And in doing so, they reinforced her power as a brand. Viral moments like this are self-perpetuating. The more the public reacts, the stronger the brand becomes, and the more saturated the cultural landscape grows with discussion, parody, and obsession. And yet, there's a paradox at the heart of this narrative. Meghan Markle's brand is both powerful and uncontrollable. She may influence it through media appearances, fashion choices, and public statements. But once an idea, like the Halloween costume, enters the public domain, it takes on a life of its own. Memes, satire, viral reactions. These are forces beyond her control. And in that tension lies the drama of the story. A figure who commands attention, inspires fascination, and invites ridicule simultaneously, encapsulated in a costume that the world couldn't stop talking about. So, what does this tell us about celebrity in the digital age? It tells us that fame is no longer a linear story. It's a feedback loop, a conversation, a series of reflections that bounce between public perception, media representation, and social amplification. Meghan Markle's brand thrives in this ecosystem, fueled by admiration, controversy, and relentless attention. The Halloween costume isn't just a joke. It's a crystallization of that dynamic, a symbol of the cultural magnetism, the viral potential, and the unavoidable scrutiny that defines her existence as a public figure. And yet, even as the costume went viral, even as memes and commentary dominated social media, one question lingered. What happens when the satire goes further, when the joke becomes more than a joke, when the public begins to create narratives that blur the line between reality and exaggeration? The answer, as we will explore in the next chapter, reveals another dimension of Meghan Markle's brand, one that encompasses influence, perception, and the curious, sometimes brutal, way the world consumes her story. When the costume dropped, there was no denying it. The world had come for Meghan Markle. But it wasn't just Meghan. No, this time, her husband, Prince Harry, had a starring role, albeit a comedic one. The label slapped on the packaging, "Idiotic Husband," hit the internet like a freight train. What was once a well-guarded royal relationship, wrapped in dignified silence, had been exposed for all to see in a single, exaggerated jab. And while some found the satire funny, others couldn't help but feel a shiver of discomfort. Because behind the joke, there's a real story. A story about media manipulation, narrative control, and the lengths to which Meghan and Harry have gone to carve out their own path in the royal narrative. But let's be clear, this isn't just about one Halloween costume. This is about a media frenzy that has been bubbling for years. The public has watched Meghan and Harry from a distance, dissecting their every move, questioning their intentions, and, in many cases, constructing the narrative for them. The idiotic husband label might have been funny to some, but to others, it was the culmination of years of criticism that has painted Harry as something of a sidekick in Meghan's life story, sometimes an unwitting accomplice, sometimes a co-conspirator, and, in the eyes of critics, often the fool. It's impossible to ignore the media frenzy that has followed the couple since the day they announced their relationship. Harry, once the world's most eligible bachelor, was suddenly thrust into a whirlwind of royal drama, media attention, and scandal. And Meghan, an American actress with no royal pedigree, was quickly scrutinized as a social climbing outsider. Their marriage became a battleground for public opinion, for royal tradition, and for the very nature of what it meant to be a member of the British royal family. And when the couple decided to step away from royal duties in 2020, the media frenzy reached a fever pitch. But here's where the story takes a twist. The media, ever hungry for drama, painted Meghan as the central figure in the narrative, with Harry often trailing behind. His image, once an icon of rebellious charm, was now viewed through the lens of Meghan's influence. In the eyes of some, Harry was no longer the wild royal. He was the doting husband, forever caught in Meghan's shadow, perpetually dragged into her controversies. The idiotic husband label wasn't just a joke. It was a representation of the way the world had come to view him. It's an easy narrative to slip into, right? A successful, powerful woman married to a man who is often perceived as being less in control of his own destiny. And when the costume gave Harry the idiotic label, the internet lapped it up, as though it were the most natural thing in the world. But what does this say about us, the viewers, the audience? What does it say about the way we love to dissect relationships, to reduce complex dynamics into neat, digestible labels? It's the same reason why every couple in the spotlight, from Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie to Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, becomes fodder for tabloid chatter. We love the drama. We love the idea that we can dissect relationships from the outside, taking the messy complexity and turning it into something simple, something we can understand. But Meghan Markle has been a different kind of public figure. Her story is layered with cultural complexities. She is biracial, American, a woman in a patriarchal institution, a former Hollywood actress turned royal. Her very existence in the royal family challenged centuries of tradition, and with that challenge came the inevitable backlash. And the media? They pounced. The headlines couldn't get enough of her. From day one, Meghan was scrutinized for everything: her clothing, her family, her past relationships, her charity work, her victim mentality, her podcast, her children's names. Nothing was off limits. The term victim mentality has been an enduring label attached to Meghan Markle. It's a term used by critics to suggest that Meghan, despite her immense privilege, continually frames herself as a victim of the media, the royal family, and the public at large. And the costume, in all its satire, didn't just poke fun at Meghan's image. It distilled that very label into something visually absurd. Victim mentality was no longer a vague accusation thrown at her from behind a news headline. It was an actual product, a commodity, available for public consumption. But let's pause for a second. What does it mean to constantly be branded as a victim? In the public eye, being a victim is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it evokes sympathy, empathy, and support from those who see you as fighting an unjust battle. On the other, it can come across as self-serving, as if you're leveraging your hardship for attention. Meghan Markle has often walked this fine line, and it hasn't always been easy. Every time she speaks out against the media or the royal family, she's met with a chorus of both support and ridicule. Some see her as brave, speaking truth to power. Others see her as someone who uses her platform to complain about injustices she's faced, turning her royal status into a weapon. And the media, in many ways, is complicit in this dynamic. Meghan and Harry's decision to step away from royal duties was portrayed by some as a brave act of independence, a rejection of the toxic royal media machine. But others painted it as an act of self-interest, a way for them to escape responsibility while still keeping the royal titles and the perks. The costume, in all its satirical glory, played on these contradictions, highlighting Meghan's role as both a victim and an opportunist, a complex blend of both narratives that's almost impossible to untangle. But let's bring it back to Harry. What does it say about the way we view his role in all this? The media often reduced him to the idiotic husband trope, the man who was whipped, under control, or clueless. It's the type of narrative that's all too familiar in celebrity culture, where women are often portrayed as the strong, opinionated figures, and men are relegated to secondary roles. Harry, despite his status as a prince, was portrayed as a footnote in Meghan's story, always playing catch-up with her growing influence. But is that fair? Is it possible that Harry, much like Meghan, has been caught up in a narrative that doesn't do justice to the complexity of their relationship? When you strip away the tabloids, the memes, the viral videos, what's left? What's left is a couple who made a decision that, for better or worse, changed the course of their lives. Meghan Markle's journey wasn't about becoming the villain in a royal fairy tale. It was about asserting her own voice, about taking control of her narrative in a world that had always tried to control it for her. But this desire for autonomy comes at a cost, because when you fight for your story, you inevitably become the subject of others. And that's the irony of being a public figure. No matter how much you try to carve out your own space, the world is always going to judge, scrutinize, and label. And, in the case of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, the labels just keep coming. Idiotic husband. It's just one in a long list of accusations, assumptions, and stereotypes that have followed them since the very beginning. And yet, it speaks to a deeper truth about how the public views them, about how the media has framed their relationship, and about how we, as an audience, consume these narratives. If there's one thing the internet has taught us, it's that no detail is too small to escape scrutiny, especially when it comes to Meghan Markle. From her clothing choices to the subtle details in her public appearances, every aspect of her appearance is subject to intense public dissection. The bronzer label in the viral Halloween costume didn't just poke fun at Meghan's beauty regimen. It was a direct commentary on the way society has scrutinized her looks. But the costume went even further, touching on something deeper, something that transcended mere beauty routines. It forced the public to confront the way Meghan's image has been commodified, analyzed, and, at times, weaponized. Let's talk about the bronzer. To some, Meghan Markle's glow is an iconic part of her image, radiant, flawless, and effortlessly glamorous. To others, it's a symbol of perfection, one that's often placed under a microscope and criticized. Is it real? Is it fake? Is it too much? Too little? The obsession with Meghan's beauty isn't just about aesthetics. It's a reflection of how celebrity culture distorts human beings into idealized, often unattainable versions of perfection. And for Meghan, that meant everything from her radiant skin to her carefully styled hair became fodder for public commentary. But let's not kid ourselves. Meghan Markle's glow isn't just natural, it's cultivated. Just like any other celebrity, she's a walking billboard for beauty standards. The bronzer label in the costume is an exaggeration, sure, but it's a striking commentary on how the world reacts to the presentation of female beauty. Meghan's face, often captured in perfect lighting, with that smooth, glowing complexion, has become a symbol of both admiration and critique. It's a standard of beauty that she has to live up to, a standard that, in many ways, she never asked for. And then, we get to the choice of noses. Oh, how we love to obsess over celebrity features. There's no hiding it. The world loves to talk about noses, lips, and cheekbones. And for Meghan Markle, her nose became a point of both adoration and criticism. It's strange, isn't it? How something so personal, so uniquely individual, can become a talking point for millions. And yet, here we are. The choice of noses label, though absurd, is a reflection of how every small detail of Meghan's appearance has been analyzed, compared, and, at times, ridiculed. Meghan Markle's nose isn't the only feature that has been examined under the public microscope. Her entire aesthetic, from her choice of clothes to her makeup, has been dissected endlessly. And while some of this scrutiny is inevitable for anyone in the public eye, there's something particularly intense about the way Meghan has been treated. She has become a mirror for society's obsession with beauty and perfection, a reflection of what we demand from our celebrities. In Meghan's case, it's not enough to be beautiful. She has to be beautiful on her own terms, but also according to everyone else's standards. The choice of noses label didn't just poke fun at Meghan's appearance. It spoke to the overwhelming pressure that comes with living up to an impossible ideal. Let's face it, the internet loves to pick apart a public figure's look. And in Meghan's case, her looks have been the subject of both praise and criticism. Some have heralded her as a trailblazer for diversity in Hollywood and the royal family, while others have taken issue with her use of exotic beauty standards or questioned her authenticity. The obsession with Meghan's appearance is a microcosm of a larger issue, the way we, as a society, judge people based on their looks. We're living in an age where beauty is commodified, and every flaw, every feature, is fair game for commentary. But the real kicker, the real satirical jab in this costume, comes with the "Eau de Copycat" spray label. Oh yes, this is where the costume shifts from a commentary on beauty to something much more potent. The idea of imitation, influence, and the blurred lines between originality and replication. Meghan Markle, whether intentionally or not, has been accused of copying other women's styles. From Kate Middleton's elegant, understated fashion to her own mother's chic sense of style, there has been a never-ending debate about whether Meghan is truly original or just another celebrity echoing trends. And the costume didn't just acknowledge this. It exaggerated it, turning "Eau de Copycat" spray into a tangible, laughable product. Is it fair to accuse Meghan of copying others? Some might say so. After all, public figures are often measured by how much they innovate, how much they push boundaries. And in a world where originality is the gold standard, imitation is seen as the highest form of flattery, or sometimes as a form of laziness. Meghan's choice of style, often tailored, polished, and chic, has sparked comparisons to other women, including her royal in-laws. The question isn't whether she's copying, but how far she's allowed to take her own identity within a public sphere that demands constant reinvention. And this, my friends, is the heart of the "Eau de Copycat" spray. It's about more than just fashion. It's about the way women in the public eye are expected to be both original and flawless, yet not too different, not too radical. Meghan has been caught in a delicate dance between embracing her own identity and fitting into a world that demands conformity. And that's where the "Eau de Copycat" spray becomes a metaphor. A satirical jab at the way society expects women to constantly reinvent themselves without ever straying too far from the norm. But here's the thing. The costume didn't just mock Meghan's appearance and style. It did something far more interesting. It tapped into the cultural conversation about identity, influence, and the impossible standards women face. Meghan's beauty has been scrutinized, sure, but it's her identity that has become the true battleground. As she stepped out of the royal spotlight and into the world of media, advocacy, and public speaking, her personal story became inseparable from her image. The costume played with this intersection, exaggerating it to absurdity, but also reflecting a truth many were unwilling to acknowledge. The labels in the costume, bronzer, choice of noses, "Eau de Copycat" spray, are more than just funny jabs. They are reflections of the way Meghan Markle has been shaped by the public, a commentary on how women are turned into symbols. And whether we like it or not, Meghan Markle is one of the most analyzed, imitated, and scrutinized women in the world. The costume didn't just poke fun at her appearance. It was a critique of how we, as a society, shape and define beauty, identity, and influence. As the costume continued to dominate the internet, the reactions grew even more intense. Some defended Meghan, claiming that she was being unfairly criticized for her beauty, her identity, and her choices. Others leaned into the satire, enjoying the absurdity of the labels and enjoying the spectacle. But no matter where you stood in the debate, one thing became clear. Meghan Markle, for better or for worse, had become the face of something much bigger than herself. She was the cultural lightning rod, the personification of beauty, influence, and identity in the digital age. If there's one thing Meghan Markle can't escape, it's the constant media scrutiny. From the color of her clothes to the way she speaks, everything is dissected by the public. But when the SHD podcast label made its way onto the viral Halloween costume, it wasn't just a clever jab at her media ventures. It was a punch to the heart of her public persona. The podcast, like many aspects of Meghan's career, became a battleground for criticism, with some calling it self-indulgent and others seeing it as a brave, honest exploration of difficult subjects. So, Why did the internet latch onto the SHT podcast label like a dog with a bone? And why did this label feel so, well, personal? The truth is, Meghan Markle's podcast has been controversial from the start. When it was first announced, people were divided. Meghan, who had already experienced years of media scrutiny as part of the royal family, was now stepping into a new world, one where she would have more control over her own narrative, but also face even harsher criticism. And despite the best intentions, the podcast quickly became a lightning rod for controversy. Let's start with the basics. The name of the podcast, Archetypes, was designed to explore the societal labels placed on women, labels like diva, crazy, man-eater, and, of course, victim. Meghan promised to use the platform to dive deep into these archetypes, to give a voice to the women who had been pigeonholed into categories they didn't belong in. The concept was noble, but the delivery? Well, that's where the problems began. For some, Meghan's podcast felt like a self-congratulatory exercise in victimhood. Critics argued that she was using the platform to perpetuate a narrative of being the underdog, the misunderstood royal, the woman fighting against systemic oppression. The label SH*T podcast was more than just a joke. It reflected a larger sentiment, that Meghan's podcast wasn't living up to its lofty goals. To some, it came off as tone-deaf, self-serving, and, frankly, out of touch with reality. Meghan's critics claimed that despite her background as a Hollywood actress and a duchess, her experiences didn't resonate with the average listener. Instead of speaking truth to power, they argued, it felt like she was merely preaching to her own choir. Now, let's step back and really think about what makes a podcast successful in today's world. Authenticity, relatability, connection. People tune into podcasts because they want to hear stories they can relate to, ideas they can engage with, and voices that feel like they understand their struggles. In that sense, Archetypes had a tough road ahead from the start. Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, is one of the most scrutinized women in the world. Her every move is watched, analyzed, and criticized. Her life, once cloaked in royal tradition, is now an open book for the world to flip through. Except, this time, it's not written by the media. It's written by her. But therein lies the challenge. Meghan Markle is a celebrity, an extremely famous and powerful one. She is a woman who has lived an incredibly privileged life, despite the challenges and controversies that have come with it. And while some people found her voice on Archetypes empowering and thought-provoking, others couldn't help but feel like it was all a bit disconnected. The audience wasn't just hearing from Meghan. They were hearing from a version of her, carefully crafted, carefully curated, and, perhaps, a little too polished for comfort. The SH*T podcast label was a direct reflection of that. It wasn't just about the podcast itself. It was about the persona behind it. But here's where the irony kicks in. Meghan Markle's podcast was meant to give her a platform to share her voice. It was supposed to be her opportunity to redefine herself outside the constraints of the royal family, outside the limitations of the tabloid headlines. But in a world where everyone has an opinion, where every podcast is scrutinized like an exam paper, Meghan's well-meaning attempt to speak on important topics became just another battleground for her critics. It was as if every episode, every guest, every word she spoke was analyzed through a magnifying glass. Was it genuine? Was it self-serving? Was it impactful? Or was it just, well, noise? To Meghan's supporters, the podcast was an important step in reclaiming her narrative. It was a chance to show the world who she really was, outside of the royal constraints, outside of the media's distorted lens. She was no longer just the woman who married Prince Harry. She was a storyteller, an advocate, a voice for women everywhere. Archetypes was supposed to be the space where she could finally be herself, without the baggage of royal expectations or media filter. But even in her own voice, people couldn't help but see the weight of her past. Her critics weren't ready to forgive. They weren't ready to let go of the image they had built for her. And here's where it gets tricky. There's no middle ground when it comes to Meghan Markle. People either love her or they despise her. And that's exactly what the SHT podcast label reflects. It's not just a criticism of her podcast, it's a criticism of her whole public persona. The podcast became the latest iteration of the media storm surrounding her. It became the new arena where people could either praise or tear her down. And the SHT podcast, label became shorthand for everything that critics hated about Meghan's public life. It was easy, catchy, and, most of all, it reinforced a narrative that Meghan Markle would never be able to escape, that she was always going to be a target. But why does this matter? Why does a Halloween costume, a satirical jab at Meghan's media ventures, make such waves in the public sphere? Because it's not just about Meghan. It's about how society views women in the public eye. Meghan Markle's podcast wasn't just scrutinized because of its content. It was scrutinized because of who she is, because of what she represents. Because, in the eyes of the public, she's already a symbol of everything people want to love and everything people love to hate. The sh*t podcast label wasn't just a funny throwaway line. It was a reflection of a deeper societal issue, the way women are treated when they try to take control of their own narratives. Meghan Markle, whether we agree with her or not, tried to carve out a space for herself where she could be more than just the woman who married a prince. She wanted to be a voice for women, for people of color, for the underrepresented. But in the digital age, where every move is televised, where every podcast is analyzed, that's a lot harder than it looks. And while the sh*t podcast label may have been funny to some, it's a sign of something much more complex. A reflection of how we, as a society, react to women who try to redefine their place in the world. Meghan Markle's voice, despite its good intentions, became just another target in the media frenzy that surrounds her. She tried to speak out, to create her own platform, and yet, in the end, it was her critics who hijacked the conversation. The podcast, like every other part of her life, became part of the narrative others wanted to write for her. If there's one thing the public loves more than a viral scandal, it's a juicy bit of celebrity family drama. And when the Kids Sold Separately label was slapped onto the Meghan Markle Halloween costume, it wasn't just another punchline in a growing list of satirical critiques. No, this label struck a chord with something deeper. A long-running debate about the Markle children, their role in public life, and the way their existence has been presented to the world. It's a label that encapsulates the bizarre, complex, and often heartbreaking way in which Meghan and Harry's parenting choices have been discussed, dissected, and ultimately commodified by the media. But it also speaks to something more troubling: the way the internet reacts when it feels like it's being lied to. At the heart of the Kids Sold Separately label is a question that has haunted Meghan Markle for years. Are her children real? Are they truly hers? Now, before you dismiss this as another baseless conspiracy theory, let's take a step back and look at the context. From the moment Meghan Markle and Prince Harry welcomed their first child, Archie Harrison, into the world, the speculation began. Was Archie really born to Meghan? Was he even Harry's child? And let's not even get started on Lilibet Diana, their second child, whose birth triggered its own set of rumors. Suddenly, the birth of their children became less of a joyous occasion and more of a spectacle for the public to dissect. The Kids Sold Separately label, while satirical, cuts to the heart of this uncomfortable truth. To the internet, Meghan Markle's children were not just innocent babies. They were part of a larger narrative, part of the royal story, part of a story the media had been crafting long before they were born. Every image, every video, every public outing with the children became a piece in the puzzle of Meghan and Harry's lives. And for some, the idea that these children could be real was harder to accept than any tabloid headline. Let's explore this further. Meghan and Harry made a clear decision when they stepped away from royal duties. They wanted to raise their children outside the media spotlight. They wanted to protect their kids from the invasive scrutiny that they themselves had faced for years. This was their attempt to carve out a normal life for their children, far from the constant glare of the paparazzi. But here's the thing. The more they tried to shield their kids, the more the public yearned for them. Every time the family made a rare public appearance, every time a new photo surfaced, it was dissected and analyzed as though it were an ancient artifact. People wanted to know everything about their children, from their looks to their personalities, even their names. And that's where the Kids Sold Separately label comes in. It wasn't just a jab at Meghan's family life. It was a reflection of how Meghan and Harry's children were increasingly being treated like commodities in the eyes of the public. The public didn't just want to know about them. They wanted to own them. And with that came a sense of entitlement, as though the children's lives were up for grabs, as though their very existence could be monetized or manipulated for public entertainment. The phrase sold separately is especially telling. It implies that the children were not just Meghan and Harry's children. They were a product, a component of their larger public persona, something to be consumed, analyzed, and ultimately discarded. It's a harsh, cynical view, but it reflects the way in which celebrity families, especially those in the royal spotlight, are treated by the media and the public. Every moment they share with their children becomes an event. Every appearance is scrutinized, and when those moments are hidden away or shielded from view, it only fuels the speculation. But here's the twist. This wasn't just an issue for Meghan and Harry. It's a reflection of a broader societal problem. In the age of social media and constant content creation, the line between public and private has become increasingly blurred. Celebrities, especially those with families, are often expected to share every aspect of their lives. And when they don't, the public fills in the gaps with assumptions, rumors, and conspiracy theories. Meghan and Harry's decision to protect their children from the spotlight was seen as an act of rebellion, a refusal to play by the rules of the celebrity game. And the internet reacted as it always does, with anger, confusion, and a desperate desire for answers. It's easy to see why the kids sold separately label caught fire. It was a reflection of the growing frustration that many felt about Meghan and Harry's attempt to control their narrative. People wanted access to their lives, to their children, to their family. And when they didn't get it, they created their own version of the story. Was this just satire, or was it a commentary on the media's insatiable need for information? Was it a criticism of Meghan and Harry's desire to protect their children, or was it a reflection of how the public feels when it's denied access to the lives of the famous? Let's talk about the broader implications of this. The kids sold separately label didn't just shine a light on Meghan and Harry's relationship with the media. It also exposed a deeper truth about the way the public views celebrity families. There's a strange paradox at play here. The more a celebrity tries to shield their children from the public eye, the more the public demands to see them. It's as though the mere existence of a child in the public eye is an invitation for people to project their own fantasies and assumptions onto them. Take a moment and think about the way we treat royal families. The British royal family, in particular, is often seen as a symbol of tradition, duty, and privilege. But within that symbolism, there's also a strange fascination with their personal lives. The public doesn't just want to know about their charity work, their royal duties, or their historical significance. They want to know what they eat for breakfast, what they wear to church, and, of course, what their children look like. The royal family has long been an institution that mixes public and private life, and Meghan and Harry's attempt to separate their family from that world was a direct challenge to the established order. But this is where things get complicated. Because while Meghan and Harry were trying to create some semblance of privacy for their children, the public had already decided who they were. Every time a photo surfaced, every time they appeared in public with their children, it was analyzed to the nth degree. From Archie's first steps to Lilibet's first birthday, every moment was recorded, dissected, and often turned into a viral sensation. And when that wasn't enough, the public made up their own stories. They speculated about the children's parentage, about their upbringing, about their future. They turned Meghan and Harry's family into a spectacle. In a sense, the kids sold separately label was an acknowledgement of that spectacle. It was a reminder that in the world of celebrity, privacy is a luxury, one that Meghan and Harry may never be able to afford. They may have stepped away from royal duties, but they didn't step away from the spotlight. The public wanted to know everything about them, especially about their children, and if they weren't going to share it willingly, the internet would take matters into its own hands. But as much as the internet obsessed over Meghan and Harry's children, it also exposed something more troubling: the public's hunger for access, control, and ownership over the lives of celebrities. Meghan and Harry's attempts to protect their children were seen by some as an act of defiance, but to others, it was seen as a betrayal, a refusal to share their lives with the people who had made them famous in the first place. And so, the internet reacted with a satirical label that mocked their attempts to shield their family, turning their children into commodities to be bought, sold, and discarded. In the next chapter, the conversation takes a darker turn. As we continue to dissect the public reaction to Meghan and Harry's family life, we'll see how the internet's obsession with their children reflects a broader cultural issue, one that extends beyond celebrities and royal families. It's a conversation about the boundaries between public and private life, about the pressures that come with fame, and about the ways in which society consumes and discards the people it elevates. When a viral moment like the Meghan Markle Halloween costume explodes on the internet, it's inevitable. Celebrities will weigh in. Some will laugh it off. Others will take sides. But what happens when the sheer absurdity of a satirical product ignites an all-out meme war? When the costume dropped, the internet didn't just light up. It was like watching an entire cultural phenomenon unfold. Social media influencers, late-night comedians, and even A-list celebrities couldn't resist the urge to comment, poke fun, and fuel the fire. And as we saw the reactions roll in, the real question was, who was laughing and who was genuinely appalled? One of the first reactions that flooded social media came from the world of comedy. Late-night hosts, always ready to make light of a celebrity scandal, had a field day. Jimmy Kimmel cracked jokes, calling it the most royal Halloween costume since King Henry VIII, while Stephen Colbert went for the jugular, mimicking Meghan Markle's podcast with a parody episode called Archetypes of Ridicule. The laughs were predictable, but beneath the humor was a deeper, more revealing commentary about the state of celebrity culture. These hosts weren't just mocking Meghan's costume. They were mocking her entire public persona, turning the table on the concept of royal rebellion, victimhood, and media obsession. Comedians, naturally, seized on the joke, but what followed was far more intriguing. The costume had become a cultural event, and in the world of memes, nothing stays just a joke for long. It quickly transcended satire, evolving into a multi-layered commentary on Meghan Markle's entire journey. And that's where things got complicated. As the meme apocalypse exploded, it wasn't just Meghan being ridiculed. It was the entire system that had created her. The way she had been packaged, marketed, and consumed as a product of public fascination became a spectacle. The meme had turned the costume into more than just a joke. It had become a symbol. And here's the kicker. It wasn't just the comedic elite that joined the fray. Hollywood's most powerful influencers also got involved. Ellen DeGeneres posted a cheeky video, dressed as the Meghan Markle costume, and danced around her set, poking fun at every exaggerated detail. The bronzer, the nose choices, the kids sold separately gag. Celebrities with their own large followings, like Reese Witherspoon and Priyanka Chopra, added their own spin, posting pictures and memes that ridiculed the public perception of Meghan's image. With every Instagram post and Twitter comment, they injected more fuel into the meme fire. But why was this happening? Why were so many celebrities eager to weigh in, to jump on the bandwagon and engage in the memification of Meghan Markle? Because the internet doesn't just consume viral content, it demands participation. Every time a public figure shares their thoughts, every time they post a meme, it solidifies their place in the ongoing cultural conversation. It's a calculated move. A way of showing relevance, of signaling which side you're on in the celebrity war. It's like choosing a team. You're either in the love Meghan camp or the mock Meghan camp, and the world was starting to pick sides. For many of the celebrities involved in the memification, the act wasn't just about laughing at Meghan. It was about reinforcing the cultural narrative they had helped create. Meghan Markle, once a beloved actress, had become a punchline in the world of Hollywood and royalty. The more celebrities and influencers joined in, the more they cemented her place as a target for ridicule. The idiotic husband label on the costume? That wasn't just a jab at Harry. It was a commentary on how the public had slowly but surely reduced him to nothing more than Meghan's accessory. The meme didn't just skewer Meghan's royal rebellion or her attempts to reshape the narrative around her family. It represented the cultural backlash to that very effort. But let's dive deeper into the psychology of it all. When we talk about memes, we're not just talking about internet humor. We're talking about something far more insidious, a cultural commentary that's both participatory and contagious. A meme isn't just something you share because it's funny. It's something you share because it expresses a collective feeling, an idea, or an opinion. Memes are viral precisely because they act as a way to share experiences, frustrations, and desires in a palatable, digestible form. The Meghan Markle Halloween costume wasn't just about a costume. It was about the collective frustration with the way she had been both idealized and demonized in the public eye. As the meme cycle continued, a strange thing happened. The internet didn't just laugh at Meghan. It began to question her entire role in the royal family, in Hollywood, and in the media. With every tweet, every meme, the narrative surrounding Meghan Markle solidified into something far more complex. She was no longer just a celebrity. She was a symbol of everything people love to hate about modern fame. The internet, in all its chaotic glory, had turned her into a pop culture pariah. And, just like that, she had become the face of something much bigger. The commodification of public figures, the obsession with personal lives, and the unrelenting demand for access. It wasn't just about the joke anymore. The memes started to carry deeper layers. The viral content reflected the frustration that many people felt with celebrity culture as a whole. Meghan Markle was being mocked not just for being a royal outcast or a podcast host, but for existing as a public figure in a way that was both inconvenient and controversial. She had become a lightning rod for everything that's wrong with modern fame. The constant media attention, the endless speculation, the impossible standards, and the backlash against anyone who dares to challenge the system. The meme didn't just criticize her. It criticized the entire mechanism that had turned her into a global sensation. But let's talk about something even more interesting: the way the internet weaponized the meme. The more the meme spread, the more it morphed into something bigger. It wasn't just about Meghan anymore. The joke began to encapsulate everything that had gone wrong with the royal family's modern image, the public's expectations, and the constant cycle of media frenzy. Meghan, and by extension Harry, had become pawns in a much larger game. The idiotic husband label was a clever commentary on how public figures often lose their identity and become nothing more than accessories to their partner's narrative. And the victim mentality tag? That wasn't just about Meghan. It was a reflection of the way society often portrays women in positions of power as either saints or sinners, with no middle ground. As the meme apocalypse continued to unfold, it became evident that Meghan Markle wasn't just a victim of public scrutiny. She was a participant in the cultural machine that had created her. Every podcast, every royal appearance, every attempt to reclaim her narrative fed the very media frenzy that she was trying to escape. The costume wasn't just mocking her. It was an acknowledgement of the cycle she had become trapped in. The meme